And now to have a better explanation on the latest ground attack on Lebanon, I'm joined live by Mr. Bilal Saab, Director of the Defense and Security Program at the Middle East Institute from United States. Mr. Bilal, always pleasure working with you. Mr. Bilal, directly, the Zionist forces have killed Hamas deputy leader Saleh Al-Arouri by a drone attack in Beirut, along with two of his companions. In your opinion, what will be the repercussions of such a barbaric act on the course of events in the Middle East right now?
First of all, it's good to be with you again and happy New Year. I know it's difficult to celebrate the New Year given going on in the Middle East. In terms of repercussions, look, obviously this certainly doesn't lower the temperature in the region. All it does is inflame the situation. And if I think of international repercussions, I'll be perfectly honest with you, I can't really see any because nobody in the world really cares about the fate of Palestinians, not just in Lebanon, but also in Palestine itself. My hope is that there will be some kind of a policy response from Washington, at least, in terms of its aid to Israel, in terms of applying diplomatic pressure on Israel to stop these kinds of targeted assassinations, which, by the way, are prohibited by international law. But I just have my doubts that Washington will do them.
Quite understanding. Mr. Bilal, observers says that the killing of Saleh Al-Arouri, Israel with this tries to embellish the image of its intelligence, which showed limitations after many losses sustained from Hamas in Gaza. Do you think that Hamas or Hezbollah or even the large public will buy this?
Yeah, that's a good question. Look, I want to give the devil his due. At the end of the day, no matter how we feel about this operation, this was a successful intelligence operation, especially after the historic failure of October 7th. So in many ways, it does boost the morale of the intelligence community in Israel. But on the other hand, it also reflects the very severe limitations of Israel's entire, frankly, bombing campaign in Gaza. It shows that it hasn't worked and that Israel has had to resort to a different kind of phase, which the Israelis themselves are calling the third phase, basically now, which is going after Hamas leadership, going after all these operatives. It's kind of like a house of cards, like one after the other. They've done that in the past. They're doing it again now. Once again, it does reflect the limitations and the struggles that Israel is facing inside Gaza, inside the Palestinian territories.
Quite understood. Mr. Bilal, in the same line of thought, Hezbollah vowed merciless retaliation against this attack. And in a message released by the group, Hezbollah confirmed that the crime will never be unpunished. How powerful, would Hezbollah retaliation be? And do you think that Netanyahu's government and his army will be matched for both Hamas on one hand and Hezbollah on the other side?
Yeah, this one is always difficult to predict, obviously. We only have to look at the past to see how Hezbollah responded to these kinds of attacks. This time it's not against it. It's not against its own people. It's against Hamas operative, obviously, residing on Lebanese territory. Look, tomorrow the Secretary General of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, is going to issue a speech. Obviously, he's going to talk about this. But I want to caution your viewers by saying that Hezbollah at the end of the day is not a reckless, it's not a suicidal organization. It will think very carefully about a measured response because it has an interest on preventing escalation. Again, this is not one of its own people. This is not like it's losing Imad Baghni, for example, in 2008 when the Mossad and the CIA actually took out the Hezbollah leader in Syria, if you remember. This is Hamas, right? They're allies, they're partners, but this is a little bit different. So I'm not sure I see that the response is going to be merciless or incredibly punishing. There might be a symbolic response, but once again, I still believe, and I hope I'm right on this, that Hezbollah is interested in maintaining some kind of a de-escalation along the borders because they have no interest in a full-fledged confrontation with the Israelis.
Although I do not agree to this point, but Mr. Bilal, what do you mean by Lebanon now, but of course represented by Hezbollah, they cannot represent or pay back for this attack because Hamas are not related to Lebanon? The attack happened in Beirut, the capital. it's kind of, they are representing the sovereignty now. They should, I don't know, show us a response. What are you saying about this?
Yeah, no, I didn't say that there would be no response whatsoever. I just said that the response will be more measured than what people think. Because once again, the priority of Hezbollah right now is to maintain its strategic deterrent against Israel, one that Iran very much values, right? So they don't want to risk another confrontation like 2006, where they lose a lot, both economically, but also in terms of manpower and the complete destruction of southern Lebanon once again, and perhaps even the Dahi headquarters, like what happened in 2006. So in no way am I suggesting that there will be no response. There might be a response that is a bit more, I guess, of a conventional nature along the borders, possibly a salvo of rockets and missiles here and there. But I don't think it's something spectacular, something so devastating Hezbollah will, pursue, only because, once again, it has to take into account its own interests first and foremost before those of Hamas or any other entity for that matter.
Mm-hmm. Very good indeed. So far, no one has confirmed that the attack happened by the Zionist entity, only by Hamas. So if it is already confirmed by all parties, I mean, it's considered kind of a violation of international law, violation of against the sovereignty of another nation. I mean, who can let them pay for this attack?
Yeah, so look, I am 43 years old, and I do not recall, obviously I wasn't alive, when Israel started this policy of assassinations of Palestinian leaders inside Lebanon. But this goes all the way back to the 1970s and to the 80s, of course. 80s, I was alive. Remember, 1972, Hassan Kanafani was assassinated in Beirut. 1973, Kamal Adwan in his apartment in Beirut. Kamal Nasser, Mohammed Yusuf Najjar. I'm reading these names in front of me right now because I tried to go back to see how Israel has done this in the past also. Mohammed Yusuf Najjar, also with his wife, also assassinated by Israeli commandos. And then, of course, the most notorious targeted assassination by the Israelis was of Ali Hassan Salami in 1979. So look, the Israelis have always pursued this tactic, which is illegal. I agree with you. It also is against Lebanese sovereignty. But who's there to stop them? Nobody, right? And so I don't think that Israel is going to stop this unless it's going to be met by some pretty significant punishment, be it diplomatic or economic or sanctions or anything of the sort. I have yet to see, frankly, anybody from the entire international community issue such threats against Israel or vow to, hold it accountable for these attacks. And if I were in Israel's shoes, nobody's holding me accountable. I'm just going to continue to do that, to be honest with you, to be very pragmatic about this. It's wrong. It's immoral. It doesn't work, by the way. But the Israelis know nothing but the use of force. They've always used that, whether or not it works or not.
Thank you so much, and thank you ever so much for this explanation. As you said, who can hold them accountable? Thank you so much, Mr. Bilal Saab. You joined us live from United States.